Welcome to all. This is such a momentous moment to come back to Mathrubhumi Festival again. And this time we have, I'm so grateful to Mathrubhumi for inviting Gita ma'am to be with us and to share her experiences about this remarkable book which I read last year. And the book is 1700 in 70, and it's there in the bookshop here. And why would I call this book remarkable? I would also call it very inspiring, because it is tracing a journey. It's not just a walk or a run. It is actually a journey from Calcutta to Delhi, through villages, small towns, cities, where she interacts, meets with people in their homes, visits them, identifies their issues, and she writes about them also here. And along with it, she weaves her own autobiography of her struggles, the pain, and the challenges she has faced through her life so far, and also through the walk. So the best way, I think, there are many other issues that we will be touching upon. Before I get into that, and it's also February. February is, I think, 2022 is when she actually started the walk. And now this is another February in 2025, and that we have her here with us. It'd be wonderful if we could listen to the lovely poem with which she actually starts the book.
Thank you, Rajshree. I'd like to thank Mathrubhumi for inviting me here, and Aramal for that beautiful introduction. I'll start with the poem like you asked me to. A walk in the park it was not. Calluses and blisters do not grow in parks. They grow on feet in duress. Pain, suffering, inequities are not what you see in a park. Children running barefoot to schools, not that either. Unending roads with no trees, sweltering heat and rare spots to rest, and no pretty water bodies with benches around. No Candyman, no swans in the lake. No, a walk in the park it was not. But wait, a walk in the park it was. Surreal sunrises that heal the heart, colors of nature that touch the soul, cheerful grins and unfeigned salutations, and unknown people were mine. Hearths of the earth, crafts of the soil, celebrations of a place, stories of our land, visions of tomorrow, which together we make into the sounds of our cause. Yes, a walk in the park it was.
The reason why this book is also inspiring, not just her poem, is also it actually talks about the personal struggles that she has undergone. And we just had a session a half an hour earlier, on the challenges Sherin faced as a disabled person and a differently abled person, to be more precise. And in her book, she talks about her personal pain too. Would you like to?
Yeah, sure, why not? So she was talking about February. February has been a strange month for me, kind of as a pattern it appears. February is when I started the walk. February, we are here today. And it was actually exactly 40 years ago today, yesterday midnight and today, when there was an attempt on my life and I was raped. I was barely 16 years old then. And why does it become important for me to talk about it with respect to the walk is that to say that there is life after a impossible looking situation like that. And every time I'm asked, was it safe for you to go out there? There were so many even yesterday and today asking me, did you feel safe? Did you take somebody? I said, this happened to me at home. And where is safety if if you can't be safe at home? And I think this was me kind of telling my past that, no one can hold me down. I'm out there. I'm ready to take on the world. Besides just this, I think the walk happened. I took to running when I was 45. And I was going through a lot of ups and downs in my life at that time from the point of view of health. I was being told, I had TB, I was being told that I needed a hysterectomy, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And I think starting to run kind of healed a lot of that. And the last 12 years after that, I'm 57 today, I took on the walk when I was 53, I think have been very beautiful and something to really cherish.
And I think it's in one of the chapters as she goes through through the book and through the walk, and she has these innumerable beautiful encounters with village folk, common people, and there's this one part where she meets Yashoda in. Right,
Rajasthan.
Yashoda in I think when you are
Rajasthan.
in Rajasthan, and where this old lady who's I think nearly 70 plus, and she kind of
She was actually closer to 90, but she kept insisting she was 55 or 60. And I said, I am 55, 53, but that's the story. Yeah.
so and she writes, the warmth of her hug, that is Yashoda's hug, brings happiness to me even now on a tough day. And she recited Kabir's couplet for me, which goes, Man ke hare haar hai, man ke jeete jeet, kahe Kabir hare paaye, man hi hai parteet. This speaks of the power of the mind that can define the difference between failure and success. I mean, this book is inspiring primarily because it's every chapter, every page, one is so tempted to give up. And we really wonder what kind of determination and at times when she is tired, she's in pain, and she still perseveres. And that's what is the most, why I call this particular text very inspiring. And in this text, she's also talking about a lot of other larger issues as she's moving along the village and the rural landscape. One is about the power of design. What does design mean in all these landscapes which are beautiful and enriched in its own way, but at the same time, who addresses these issues, design issues? And how do you mitigate with that? And that is when I also read up about the foundation that she had started, the Ethos Foundation. I really want you to tell them more about it.
Sure. Again, many asked me, like you were suggesting, every page seemed to tell you that, oh my God, so much pain, why did you not give up? I think what came after is what kept you going, what one was planning to do after the walk. And if I did not complete the walk, it was almost like that part of my life wouldn't begin. And the walk helped me identify 6 causes which became the main pillars of the foundation. If I was to quickly, in a nutshell, kind of describe, and each of them has a story on why it started. I work extensively with construction workers across India now, and so that's called Shrama. And these names I dream up. I have a sleepless night, and then when I go back to work that day, the next day, my team is saying, okay, what's new? Because they know if I've had a bad night, it means something beautiful has come out of it. The second, we had the previous speaker who was on a wheelchair, and I met somebody on my 51st day at a place called Datia in Madhya Pradesh. The team had arranged for me to meet a visually impaired person. And as I reached his home, I was extremely exhausted, and I'd walked 28 kilometers already that day. And there was this young man who received me and, ran up the steps, switched on the light, opened the door, switched on the lights, took out a mattress, put it on the floor, took out his harmonium and said, I'm going to sing to you, Rag Pitambari. And I said, that can wait. I really want to finish this meeting with Harshvardhan. And he said, I am Harshvardhan. And I was completely amazed because he was able to navigate his home with perfect ease. When I asked him how come, and he said, it's because it's my house. The minute I step out, the society has made it impossible for me to move without a chaperone. And that gave birth to Udita. Udita is universal design is the answer. And I'm so excited and happy to see a ramp that is, so well designed for someone with a wheelchair at the MIBF. And I think this is what Udita tends to do. The third action area is called Bodh. You were talking about rural landscapes, and we're talking about how do you retain our past, at least in spirit, in documentation. It's called Building on Design Histories. We're talking about the poor not having access to design. So there's another action area called affordable design, a right. The fifth action area is the most recent, which is Swades, meaning see value in design. And the sixth one is sustainability in action and thought, being Saath. So those are the different action areas under which we have projects going extensively. And I think the walk has made it possible for the partners I'm approaching to see me in a different light, take me more seriously, and probably partner me.
And you also mention about you explain in detail as to what kind of role do we play? What is as architects, what is the role in terms of social responsibility? And do we have to stay within serving our elite clients? We study in elite schools, architecture, and then we step out, and our clientele is a very, very tiny elite segment. And where the design, as we go through the walk that she goes, when she talks about, and we realize that there are so many sectors who actually need a very sensitive, empathetic, and sensible design initiatives, which are missing, which is absolutely missing. And that is where we should actually be intervening. I think that is, and that's what also Ethos does. It does ignite, they do work with young minds, and primarily because they see it as agents of change, right?
So let me talk about a small anecdote on my walk. Toilets were hard to come by. We talk about India being open defecation free. We have a long way to go. And this is a question many people kind of squirmishly ask me when they hear about the walk, but where did you do your job? So, because you're walking for 7-8 hours, and when it was winter, there were at least 3 times that one had to, relieve oneself. And the word relief is actually comes alive when you're in a situation like that. And women know how we, probably before we leave the house, we, definitely have to empty our bladders, because I was also someone who couldn't use the toilet in the neighboring room. The reason I'm bringing this up is, that first day I used the bushes, it was like the breaking of a glass ceiling, after which my team who was with me said, now it doesn't matter. She's done it here, she can do it anywhere, it was like that. So one of the places, it was in Umari, I think in Madhya Pradesh, where there was a lady called Rajua, whose toilet I had used, which really is a hole in a wall, literally. There's a wall and there's a hole, and that's all you're using, right? In many places we know. And as I got out, there were these bunch of women standing outside, and Rajua said, now you have to pay me my fee. You have to come and look at my house and tell me if I'm doing the right thing with the design. And that got me thinking as to how do these people even have access to good design? Design, like you said, it has become a luxury. It's only those who can afford it are being, are using architects and designers. And how do you get them, like healthcare? Healthcare reaches, percolates. And if only we could have a system where there are rural architects, there are like Anganwadi workers, I call them Rachna Mandals, and you actually have these Rachna Mandal workers who become advisors. I might be pilloried by many on the architect fraternity, but to have a para-architect of sorts, like a paramedic, who can actually deliver design advice to these people. Because one more thing that you saw constantly was the, complete taking over of modern materials and modern ways of construction. Our villages are being transformed as we speak. Within 6 months of the walk, I went again on that route by car for certain distances. All the buildings, the homes that I saw have already started being pulled down. And it's because many of our yojanas, many of our grants, many of our loans insist that people need to build pakka. And here we are, in this age of sustainable architecture, green buildings, talking about reversible architecture, yes, talking about recyclable materials. What can be more sustainable than that kacha home out there, right? And how do you keep that going? So these are the ways in which, so my walk was a wake-up call for not just me, but for my entire community of architects. It was used, I was literally on show. There were Insta posts on a regular basis. There were Facebook. It was designed like that to make my community of architects, to tell them that we have a lot to do if we need to be relevant.
And there is actually, we are losing an entire knowledge base of traditional building methods. Not only traditional building methods, also traditional ways of living, of using space, organizing space, which accommodate work, which accommodate craft, ornament, and the cultural lifestyle of that particular region. So that is getting lost in this urbanization of these rural areas. And she does make a statement in the book somewhere, I don't remember where, but where she talks about as to how can we modernize the rural spaces without urbanizing them. This is a very, very important statement, because this is the main problem happening. We are turning rural landscapes with concrete boxes, lifeless boxes which have no reference to their local culture, ritual, ways of living, and color, etc.
That particular quote was from a chapter called India at 75, I think. And I met two brothers in a village called Bharra. As I was walking by, these two guys were waving at me because I did stand out with the way I was dressed. I wasn't dressed like this. I was wearing tights. I had a bandana. I was wearing shoes, ready to walk kilometers and kilometers. And these two brothers insisted that I go and see their house. And I thanked the heavens that I did stop. What a gem it turned out to be. And he said, in Hindi, he said, "Ye mitti ka hai aur mitti mein jayega." This is made of earth and it goes into earth. What more can you talk about cradle to cradle and sustainability? While I was at their house, and they were showing the house off, they talked about an extract from the rice crop that is used as an anti-termite treatment. I have searched the internet far and wide to find what that can be. It isn't mentioned anywhere. So, I mean, these are I'm sure we've already lost a lot of these nuggets and nuggets of wisdom and traditional ways of doing things. And I think it's time we paused and we said, how do we at least document it for posterity? We're not going to be able to stem the change that's happening for various reasons. Like in Rajasthan, a stone house is being plastered. And when you ask them, they say, "Beti ki shadi nahi hogi." My daughter will not get married. It's a symbol of prosperity to have a plastered home. So I don't know if you're going to be able to stem this change unless and until the collectorate, the panchayat office, our government buildings set examples by doing things differently. And I think that's essential. And I think Kerala is an example of how one man, Laurie Baker, kind of changed the vocabulary. And we're still persisting with, a different kind of architecture. It has, and it's something where homes are valued. Ways people live in their homes are valued. And it's not just about these big monuments that we often go to see in different places. Like today, I went and saw the Loyola Church, Loyola Chapel. And it's not one of those ostentatious big ones. It's a simple thing that actually is so unobtrusive. And those are the things that can bring about real change.
She does talk about oral histories also, which is very essential that we actually document them. And especially when you come to Kerala and when you look at typologies, essentially only the Tarwad houses are studied. Very honestly, in the academic pedagogy, this is the main focus is on the elite Tarwad house or the ilams that the Brahmins live. So every generation in the architecture colleges eventually study only that. And that becomes the, what you would call it, understanding of Kerala architecture is only about these two types. Whereas if we actually, I'd done a study on the craft traditions and how do these craftsmen actually live. So their typology is completely different, unique, and very, very different from what we actually see. And there is so much beauty in that too. There are Adivasi housing, the way they live, again, which is so ecologically balanced, and where she does talk about the need to kind of create a balance between the existing ecological situation and how every input, that every concrete box that we actually introduce, how much of disruption does it actually cause in that particular area?
It's not just in terms of material. The disruption it causes is in terms of a change of a whole way of life. How a community related to each other, how earlier communities got together to build a home. It was not just that one person building a home, it was the community that got together and built that home. How the community celebrated things together. And now, because it's become that box, it's just cutting off people. It's like walls are being built in their minds, and there's no way they can relate to each other as well. So there's a whole change in terms of lifestyle that happens because of a simple change in design.
True.
I'd also like to add, since you brought up the way architects study, so in Jharkhand, which is another place I walked through, there was this beautiful child I met by name Sumari. There they named the children after the day of the week. So she was born on Somvar, so she became Sumvari. And she didn't like it, so she changed it to Sumari. And I asked her, what would you like to grow up, study when you begin college? She was in class 11. And she said geography. And I asked, why geography? And she was able to articulate so beautifully. It's because she loves river, water, air, stars, fossils, and and she's talking in Hindi, right? It's not even that she's so-called elite educated. And I don't know how many of you know, in Jharkhand, like you say a namaskaram here, you say Johar. Johar means I surrender to nature. And that's the greeting that Jharkhand has as a greeting when you meet somebody. And this child, Sumari, I was just thinking to myself when you were talking earlier, if she wanted to study architecture, I don't know if our system will allow her to fit in.
No, it won't
right?
fit in.
She won't be able to fit into an architecture program in our country. And I think it's so important to vernacularize some of our programs at least. So people like her actually become architects, and I think they'll be great assets when they are able to go back and they understand the local and they build for the local.
Exactly. In the architectural pedagogy, the way it is taught, the university curriculum, they're really required to stop giving lip service, of mentioning ecology, but actually make sure that it is part of the curriculum study, make traditional knowledge systems a part of the study. And we are learning a lot about the architects and their work, etc., from the other countries, which we do extensively. I mean, all 5 years of an architectural education, that happens a lot. But the local systems, the local cultural systems are totally neglected altogether. So that's something we are actually missing out on. We also miss out when we are documenting, we miss out oral history. And whereas her book, it's an autobiography, but at the same time, it gives me a reading. It actually tells me what people are saying, what people are actually feeling, and how they see the world. And there is a chapter which is, I like the title. I'm being selfish here. I like the title that India is large-hearted. Anyone who has worked in any rural area will know what it means. Can you tell them?
Well, this chapter, when I said India is large-hearted, it was to describe Madhya Pradesh being the heart of India in a sense. But it was also a pun to say that, the kind of reception one got at different places, where, for instance, in Bishnupur, it's an Adivasi village that I went to called Madhavgram. And this was my 6th day of the walk. It was my first encounter. And these women had all dressed themselves up, and they did a little dance for me. They had actually rented out 2 drums to beat, which is their profession. They actually go and perform in different places. But it broke my heart to realize they had actually paid money to welcome me when I had nothing really to offer them. And it's something that kept me up that night to realize that, this whole large-heartedness that we're talking about in different villages, of different villagers. There were so many who said, we're cooking for you and you have to come back and have a meal with us. There was this man who came back, he had gone past us, and I think our team told him about me, and he came back with a plastic colorful garland and a bottle of water, and he said, I run a printing press. I think he meant a screen printing press, and I have only this to offer you as my offering. There were people who took me around to show me their village. They said, we can't do anything more than just show you around. So there were so many of such beautiful encounters which made my visits to their places so much richer. And I think they will remain part of that mosaic of my memories with on this.
So one actually, when we go to the rural areas is when you actually sense that wholehearted warmth that you receive from them, and they give so readily, which I think we miss out in our individualistic lives in the city. I think somewhere that is lost. And I'm coming back to her walk. She started the walk from Calcutta, and people usually, for every occasion, even like any of the events, you would have a very high placed dignitary to flag off the event. And instead, she called two of her construction workers, Prasanta and Vijay, right? And to flag off the whole.
So they were not my
safety
construction workers.
Not yours.
I am not into design and construction. I think the whole story started there when I was trying to locate two construction workers to flag off my walk. None of my architects friends could find construction workers because we architects do not speak to our construction workers. We are up there and we believe it's them there. And that's the difference, or those are the layers I'm trying to break. I'm trying to get them to dissolve today through my initiative. I'm getting architects to come and present to construction workers their project before the construction starts. On day one of my walk, I stopped at a construction site, and when I asked, there were these young men who were filling up the foundation, and I asked them, what is being built here? They said, we don't know, we are just filling soil. So we find that many of them are only building walls, filling soil, casting roofs. They don't know that they're building a church or a temple or a home or a school. And when they don't know that, they're not going to have that love for that building or for their craft. And that's something I'm trying to impress upon my architect friends, that they need to do things differently. To all of you here, if ever you're building something, it'll be nice to keep a record of everyone that's worked on your project. Just to say a silent thank you to them, if nothing else. Because it's because of them that your home or your school or whatever has come to life.
Yeah, this is very important because they are the ones who are actually building the place. I mean, we are just making drawings. Architects, we actually just make drawings and models. We don't build anything anyway. So,
and what really defines what skill is, right, is just because you went to college and learned to design, is that skill superior to these people who learned on ground from their parents, from their peers, to actually build your dreams. So that's something that we need to question as well. Unfortunately, in India, we do not have a formal training system for these construction
they have
workers.
Actually now in Tamil Nadu.
There are, but I don't think there are enough.
Not enough.
Even Karigar Shala in Bhuj that I talked about, there is this whole skill development council. But I don't know if it's the right way. Again, we're expecting someone in a classroom to teach them construction, and I'm advocating that they become the masters. It becomes a guru sishya kind of a apprentice master kind of a relationship, where we actually award the master also at the end of it if the apprentice performs. And I've written out a proposal for that, and I'm hoping I'll get funds to demonstrate how that works. So yeah. I'd also like to talk about, when you said India is large-hearted, I think it was not just the people that I was talking about, it's also the places, the environment, the trees. And I'd like to read a little bit, if you don't mind, about one particular. So many of these characters, whether it's a tree, whether it's an NGO, whether it's a person, have been called showstoppers in my book. I've written about many of them as showstoppers, just like in the fashion line you have someone, and it's because they made me stop on my tracks and really look at them many more times. So this is about the mahua tree. The mahua tree and its role in the lives of villagers, particularly the tribal community, was an important discovery during the 1700s. Mahua, or Maduka longifolia, is a native tropical tree that is considered sacred. It finds mention in the ancient treatise on healthcare, Charaka Samhita, as well as in the Atharva Veda. Different parts of the tree are used for treating various diseases, such as worms, rheumatism, eczema, and much more. As the saying goes, the ash from the burnt tree is used as a poultice to treat burns and other injuries. The fruit has nutritional value. As the saying goes, a bite of the mahua and you will not know hunger. During the famines of 1770 and 1896-97, the seed cakes from the mahua tree became staple diet for the poor. Also known as the Indian butter tree, its flowers are distilled into the most original native home-brewed liquor through a process that lasts 8 days. The sweet smell of the mahua flowers often reached my nostrils before the eyes could spot the tree. The carpet of green flowers under it was being combed through by women, children, and sometimes even men. Christened the tree of life, the mahua has been a tree of survival during during times of scarcity and during the pandemic too. So there's so many such discoveries that I made that I delved deeper to find out and have documented as well. Yeah.
And each and every one of the showstopper that she has along in the entire book will make you stop and think about what is happening around you, and then also reflect on how you have been responding. There are a lot of these, because personally I've been also working in rural areas, so many of the times it could actually resonate and I would be flooded with memories of my own encounters and how little I contributed. I'm being honest here, how little I contributed back.
How little all of us contribute back, right? Yeah, it's not just you, yes.
So, and I think much earlier in life you had started with Avaz, the organization Avaz, that is Association for Voluntary Action and Services based in Bangalore. And she started her work in the slum of, I think I'm spelling it wrong again, Bayapanahalli. So, and I think, did that change you drastically?
Those were formative years. I was barely 22 when I got out of college, and I had just come back from the US. I tried working in architectural firms here. I don't know how many of you know how sad the architectural scene in terms of pay is. I was being paid $750 by my architect employer, and my dad was paying the driver 900 rupees. Not to demean the driver, but I'm saying that was the parity. And even today, that's the kind of parity there is for a fresh graduate, or parity there isn't for a fresh graduate. So I actually chose, and I was also disappointed with the kind of work that I was getting to do. I did not feel comfortable with myself, as Mark Twain says, a man needs to be comfortable with himself. And I went on to respond to an advertisement for a creative educationist in slums, and I said, it's okay if I'm not an architect, I'll move into something else. And that brought me close to Avaz. I'm a trustee of Avaz today. And I think a lot of the person I am today is because of the days I spent in the different slum communities at Avaz. And even this problem of toilets that I mentioned, very often we say, oh, you know, we built toilets for them, but they never use them. They kind of use it as another room. Little realizing the actual problem there is. If Chandani has to trudge 2 kilometers to bring 2 buckets of water with, straddled on a cycle, she's not going to use it to keep a toilet clean. She's going to use it for their daily use. She would prefer to use 2 mugs of water if she goes out to the fields. And that's the reality we need to understand, where water is a scarcity. And maybe doing community toilets in such places become the way forward. And I have seen community toilets managed in slums by the community streetwise very, very well. So these were all learnings that certainly helped me grow and become the person that I am.
And along the way, through your walk, you also meet so many other NGOs, IAA chapters, members, etc. Then you meet, you have an interaction session with Asha. That is also very interesting.
So Sumari was part of the NGO that's part of the community that Asha takes care of.
Asha is Association for Social and Human Awareness in Ranchi.
In Ranchi, close to Ranchi, in a village called Namkum, they take care of children of brick kiln workers. And extremely happy kids. These are children who would otherwise have been left behind by their parents in the village to be taken care of by elders, or they would have gone along with their parents to the brick kiln where parents stay for 9 months at a time outside, and they would have probably whiled their time away on the sides. And it was very heartwarming to see NGOs like this, or Father Alfonso's NGO in Chandwa, where he's training nurses. And these nurses are likely to go out in the next week or two. The ones that I met were likely to go out in the next week or two to become, to work in large hospitals. And here they were, never have seen a large hospital. So the kind of shock they would have had, having to stay away from parents, suddenly manage a big city and a big hospital at work, is something that I thought architects could also alleviate by maybe doing a 3D modeling of a hospital, making them walk through it and understand what this big space is going to be like. So yes, there were a lot of encounters like that that enriched my journey. I think it was certainly a journey that physically, mentally, in all kinds of ways made me stronger and a very different person.
And also, all through your shows, stoppers, all of them, all of these anecdotes actually give us clues as to how we can possibly make interventions, small interventions. It's like she mentioned right now, it's a small interactive 3D, so that they are at least kind of prepared, the workers would be kind of prepared to kind of move into a larger place, larger city, navigate all of those kind of complexities. So I think there are many times I feel these NGOs and these who work in, they are invisible. None of us know about it. Very few who are interested in the working in the field are the ones who are aware. They actually work on ground and they are far, far more effective than a lot of these larger star architect offices which do not even consider this population, which is the largest one, to be design needy. And that's when I'm moving to a next point that she makes before I run out of time. There's so much to discuss actually. As she makes a point about making India design literate, right? So this is towards the, she comes up with a lot of strategies as to what needs to be done. That is after she has done the walk, and it's more or less like a summary where she talks. And she talks about design literacy, which is...
I think while it might sound very elitist that you need to be design literate, if you do not know the value of design, if you do not know that design even matters, that's when these changes from the changes that we are seeing from using our traditional ways. I have a cross-section visual where I track the vernacular from Kolkata to Delhi and I track the modern from Calcutta to Delhi. And you see that it's very interesting how you see that while you're in, in West Bengal and Jharkhand, the scale is a lot more intimate. People are talking to each other a lot more. Those large expressways haven't yet come about. When you get into UP and Madhya Pradesh, you start seeing that happening much larger. And a simple thing like, when we were this is not in the book, but when I was walking Odisha subsequently, we were told, we visited a place called Pipli. And Pipli is where it's famous for its applique craft. And that entire craft is dying because someone sitting somewhere chose to move the highway running within the Pipli town to somewhere else. There were no tourists coming to buy their craft. So if the locals do not understand the value of what that little step could do, they're not going to be able to demand how things should be done also. And that's another thing I'm advocating, and I think we need to do it, demonstrated through a small case where you're actually presenting to the locals, talking to the locals. It is a give and take. You wouldn't expect a child to trudge 3 kilometers up, get under the expressway and come 3 kilometers back when his school is just across the road. He is going to try and cross the road. He or she is going to try and cross the road just that way. And I remember putting up a post on Insta on this. And there were so many who kind of told me saying, these guys are hazards. They are the ones who cause accidents. But we are the ones who actually impinged on their route. And if you don't find ways for them, then that's going to happen. And I remember a lot of people tagging the NHAI and Mr. Nitin Gadkari. And two months later, we saw a news article which talked about pedestrian highways for pedestrians as well. I don't know if my post had anything to do with it, but I'm glad we were talking about it at least. So yes, design literacy is important, not just for the poor. I'm saying even for our people who are decision makers,
Yes.
they need to know what
True.
impact any of their decisions have on the local.
And that also requires a certain understanding of the local community and how they move, what their local needs are. Only then can we actually incorporate those ideas at the design policy level. Otherwise, it just remains a policy which is made in a closed-up room without any understanding of the ground reality. So that is one. I also feel at times that even the educational system, we've started something here called, in colleges called the Rural Studio, where we take students to the rural site. For 6 months, they actually do a study, a documentation, as well as come up with design interventions, not buildings, design interventions that would make their lives better. So the focus is not on a structure or a large building, but small initiatives that can facilitate that particular community. Not all colleges have taken up, very few have, but there's a small initiative that can be taken up by others if there are any educators here.
Ironically, I was talking to some colleges in Tamil Nadu, and I walked Chennai to Bangalore last year, January, for persons with disabilities, designing for persons with disabilities. And the irony is that there's not too much in some of these villages to even study, because they've all been they're all undergoing great change. Yeah. You want to ask?
Just last one. This was not the only walk. She has done several walks. Like, she's also done a walk from Calcutta to Dhaka. I've always been curious as to how different or similar it would have been. So that's something you can tell us before I open it to the audience.
Calcutta, Dhaka was really interesting because until now one was seeing how one city became another, or a city became a village became a town, and a town became another city. How a religious city like Mathura became an industrial town of Palwal. How that transition happens at the pace of walking, you're absorbing it very differently. And here I was trying to understand how one nation becomes another. We were one country before that. And, I used to do Insta Lives every day on the second walk. And the last Insta Live I did from the Adi Dhakeshwari temple at Dhaka. Dhaka is supposed to have got its name from that temple, also from the dhak, which is the drum that people beat. And when I put that up, I remember a friend who's a professor in Delhi in a college writing to me on Insta, saying, on Facebook, I think, saying, do you know that the idol from that temple is actually sitting at Kumartuli in West Bengal? And I said, yes, I do. So he said, you know it because you did your research. I know it because my uncle carried that idol back. So many such stories that one got to know. And as I was walking, other than the language, which is Bengali still, but it's very different dialects of Bengali, I didn't see so much change to start with. But then when you start looking sharply, you kind of realize that there are these dan boxes, which are donation boxes all along the way, because in Islam it's important to donate money, and they're all along the way. And when I started, I was a little uncomfortable because it was at 4:30 in the morning. I had started near a bus terminus, a truck terminus kind of a thing, where a lot of truck drivers had parked, these heavy guys, in lungis, and I'm in a new country. I'm looking at them. They're not smiling. They're also sternly looking at me in a sense. And then a little ahead, I said, what the hell? I just said, Salaam alaikum, like I would say a namaste here. And immediately those stern faces kind of break into smiles and melt, and, you start conversing with them. It was a fantastic experience going to Dhaka and experiencing the hospitality. And I think Bangladesh being about 25 years behind us, at least unfortunate that what is happening there right now, but it became a country 24 years after us. And hence, development in the manner that we talk hasn't yet hit the place. So you still see a lot, you see how water is actually still their lifeline, how there is this whole cycle of water that you can see in every household. They have these pukurs which are called water tanks. They have, we talk about wetlands and the Ramsar listing. We see it in every home out there along the way in Bangladesh, unless you got into the town or the city, which Dhaka is a mess, of course.
I could go on, but there's a beautiful line in her book which says, there is no finish line. So, I would stop here right now and open it up to the audience for any questions.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, ma'am, for the insightful session. I'm not from the design or architect field, but as you were talking about the story, and I particularly like the line you talked about, how do you modernize the home without urbanizing them? And I regret that, the home that I grew with, because of the house was becoming old, we had to distract and then do something. So I was just wanting to know from you, if you buy a new plot somewhere, how do we build similar home as a common man? Is it possible for us to recreate? And what are the avenues available for us?
I'm not even sure.
And this home is in Kerala. Okay,
yeah, I understand. I'm not even sure it's necessary to recreate it the way it was. You need to recreate the soul of it, maybe the spirit of it, maybe, but you need to use exactly that and make it identical in today's time. Maybe not, because just to give you an example, I was at the Lit Fest in Nagpur last year. And to draw parallel to what's happening here, Atul Kulkarni, the actor, was being asked by a mother in the audience that, my son has started reading or listening to Audible and not really reading, and that feel of the book is not there. And he said, don't stop him. Things have to move on in a direction. But I'm just saying, as long as the spirit of the home, in the sense of why you had a courtyard, what purpose did it serve? Do you still need one? And can you create some way in which that purpose is served? Those are the things that you need to ask yourself. And those are the questions I asked many of the villagers along the way. I would take flashcards with me. I would take presentations with me. And the conversations I would have with them is, what did you like about your home that you do not want to lose? What do you, how do you think you can do it with? They want to do it with Pakka materials. They have a problem. They have a problem of maintenance. They have these issues in the old home. So how do you tackle those problems with the new ways of construction? Maybe you'll evolve a completely new vocabulary for our country and our regions. Things have to evolve, and they have evolved. You're not still living in the caves. You are moving on and doing things differently. That's how I see it. Although many would say, why not build with mud and earth and thatch still? Yeah.
Imitation never works. I'm giving a live issues it's a small village in Kunjimangalam, Kannur district, where the craftsmen they've been staying there for 900 years, and generations staying there. Now the new homes that are being built are built with brick now, not with mud plaster or laterite. They are using a combination of brick and laterite. The organization of the spaces still remains the same. They themselves are building it, so they know how they want it. It is not an architect from outside coming and intervening. So craftsmen are building their own homes because they can't afford an architect. So they are building it the way they want it. They need it in their house, so that there is space for their metal work, and there's place for the women to kind of participate in the metal making process, etc. So all the elements remain the same. Only this technology of making or putting things together has changed. So the village still feels the same names for the same spaces, etc.
So you being already an architect and a community person, right? So it's a nice combination to have everywhere. So my thought is like, okay, why we are not understanding the value of community living? The reason why I'm asking is because today's world, people are tending towards that individualistic thought process and personalizing everything. The view they want in their house, everything need to be replicated as it is outside also or somewhere else. So the replicas are getting more and more, and it is multiplying like anything, right? So the materialistic aspect is also having that impact. So my question, not really a question, why we are not finding value in this community living concept, so that it's not really needed every time the same thing repeated and repeated. You can have it in a community also.
Yeah, you're right in terms of sustainability. It makes sense. There are people who are opting for it, but not enough for sure. I'd like to just touch on something she brought up earlier to also address your question a little bit. She talked about social responsibility, which I did not elaborate on. In the organization that I'm structuring and working, there are these 6 action areas that I mentioned. It's very easy for me to say, okay, I've got these funds and this is how we'll execute it and we'll go out and do it ourselves. But I think our mission at Ethos, and our cause is what I call it, Architects for a Cause and for the Cause of Architects. I'm using students, young architects and architects as the change makers. They are we've signed MOUs with about 55 colleges who have created social responsibility clubs in the college. And if I'm getting, for instance, with the construction workers, we've sent 200 construction workers out to construction sites in Maharashtra, Rajasthan and Gujarat, where they go and interact with the construction workers to collect information about their lives. That was the project. And that has changed them. So I'm hoping that when they become architects, I'm sure they will spare a thought for the construction worker. Similarly, when we are working with persons with disability, it is not, unfortunately, I don't know how many of you know, it's not mandatory in our curriculum to learn about universal design, which is crazy, right? As designers, we don't have to mandatorily learn about universal design. So we've created a course which has been completely created by young architects and students. Illustration. So they feel that sense of ownership, and they market it and they take it to people more, and hence when they design, at least they will make sure in the future. And I'm hoping through this we build a new generation of people who are a lot more sensitive to all these things. Thank you.